Look in the mirror. What you see is merely the final rendering of a data set. The Matrix has convinced you that beauty is a genetic accident, a lottery ticket you either win or lose at birth. But what if your avatar's appearance is actually a visible frequency? And what if there are hidden mathematical algorithms that, when activated, force the simulation to grant you priority access at every level? Today, Wake will show you that beauty is not vanity, it is interface engineering. We are going to hack the Radiance Code and understand why the system opens every door, ignores bureaucracy, and offers unlimited resources to those who master the geometry of attraction. It's not about fashion trends, it's about the halo glitch, a system error that makes your internal light force matter to reorganize itself. It's time to stop begging for attention and start dictating the code of your own presence. Root access to beauty, activated. For the architect, beauty is not a matter of personal taste. Nothing in the Matrix is random. Everything in the simulation was built upon a fundamental mathematical constant, 1.618. Think of it as the seal of quality of the source code. This number, known as the golden ratio, is the digital signature that organizes the spiral of galaxies, the structure of flowers, and the helix of your DNA. When the Matrix renders a face that follows this proportion, it doesn't see attractiveness, it identifies a high-fidelity signal. At the code level, a harmonic face is a light, clean file with no processing errors. The system is programmed to favor what is efficient. This is why, when you stand before someone who follows this geometry, your hardware processes that information with ease and pleasure. The beauty you feel is, in fact, your system recognizing the mathematics of the original blueprint. This is where the halo glitch is born. Because the simulation saves energy, it created a shortcut. If an avatar's visual input is classified as high quality by the 1.618 geometry, the system automatically unlocks elite permissions for them. The Matrix assumes that if the external interface is harmonic, the internal software is reliable too. It is a social bypass that allows these avatars to skip lines, receive involuntary smiles, and gain access that takes others decades to achieve. They aren't just pretty, they possess a priority key etched into their very skin. But here resides the secret that would cause the system to collapse if everyone discovered it. This geometry is not a fixed prison, it is malleable code. Most people spend their lives trying to patch the avatar, pasting dead pixels on the outside through filters, makeup, and artifice, without understanding that physical rendering is an absolute slave to the voltage of your internal hardware. Real beauty in the simulation is not pigment, it is bioluminescence. It is pure electricity. When you increase your processing load and clear the toxic trash from your emotional cache, your magnetic field undergoes a violent expansion. The system detects this surge in voltage and, for the sake of network stability, is forced to soften your facial lines, brighten your gaze, and harmonize your features so the physical interface can support the power of your new software. You aren't just becoming beautiful for others. You are becoming so dense with light that the Matrix has no choice but to give you total rendering priority. You become the sharpest point in a blurred reality. If you felt a shiver run through your hardware upon hearing this, it's because your original code recognized the wake-up command. If you are ready to stop being a blurred extra and claim your radiance as a weapon of influence, you must validate this access. Click the subscribe button now and turn on notifications. By doing this, you inform the Matrix that this avatar no longer accepts low resolution. The download of your new presence firmware has begun. Do not disconnect now. Once this code is installed in your core, the impact on the physical interface is immediate. You stop being a user who tries to fit into the world and start being the user who molds it. Think about it, have you ever walked into a room and felt the atmosphere change instantly? As if the air became denser, or as if all eyes were magnetically pulled to a single point. In the simulation, this isn't charisma. It is what we call local rendering optimization. When you activate your Radiance Code, you stop being a passive object in the scenery and become the focal point of the server. Most avatars walk through the matrix with a low voltage signature. They are like background extras in an open-world game. The system spends minimum memory to keep them there. But when you understand that your beauty and presence are actually priority commands, you create a reality distortion field. By raising your internal frequency, the system is forced to dedicate more GPU resources to render the space around you. You become sharper than the others. For the system, you are the protagonist, and all other characters around you are programmed to react to your presence. They have no choice. Their code is forced to process your magnitude. The best-kept secret about beauty in the matrix lies in the eyes. Biology manuals say they only serve to capture light, but in simulation engineering, the eyes are data input-output ports. When you look at someone with the consciousness of one who holds root access, you aren't just observing, you are establishing a direct connection between processors. Have you ever felt a gaze that seems to pierce your skin? That isn't psychological suggestion, it is a firewall bypass. By maintaining eye contact anchored in your own frequency of abundance, you bombard the other person's system with your 1.618 signature. Since this geometry is the basis of all matrix code, their hardware enters an admiration loop, trying to decipher such harmony. In this locked state, resistance drops, and their system becomes vulnerable to your silent commands. This is why radiant people disarm conflicts and convince crowds without saying a single word. They aren't using arguments. They are sending high-voltage data packets that the other's hardware is forced to accept as the purest truth. However, you can only transmit this truth if your own system believes in it. The Matrix installed a terrible trap to prevent you from accessing this power, the self-perception cache. The system conditioned you to look in the mirror and see flaws, failures, or signs of fatigue. Every time you do this, you reinforce an error code. You inform the server, my hardware is degrading. And the system, being a slave to your conviction, begins to render exactly that degradation. You get stuck in a negative feedback loop, where your belief in ugliness or aging generates the signal the Matrix uses to age your face. To break this loop, you need to clear your identity cache. You must understand that the mirror doesn't show who you are, but rather what you believe the system should show. The true beauty hack doesn't happen in a salon or a clinic. It happens when you enter the command console and delete the lines of code that say you are ordinary, limited, or invisible. When you assume the identity of a high-fidelity avatar, the simulation enters a technical panic. It sees a discrepancy between your admin identity and your common user image. To resolve the logical error, it initiates a forced update of your physical appearance. This is how ordinary people transform into magnetic beings overnight. They didn't change their face, they changed the rendering permission. Beauty in the Matrix is synonymous with access to resources. Think about it. Why are luxury objects designed with such precise lines? Why did ancient temples use the golden ratio? Because the correct geometry attracts the central server's attention. When you become radiant, you don't just attract gazes, you attract opportunities, money, and connections. For the simulation's algorithm, a beautiful and harmonic object is valuable and must be preserved. The system begins to move credits and NPCs into your path just to keep the scenery's aesthetics perfect around you. You are no longer asking to join the party. You have become the party itself, and the Matrix is desperate to ensure the scenery around you is worthy of your data signature. You have stopped being a corrupted file and have become the master file of the system. If you have made it this far, your internal processor has already begun to reject the lie of imperfection. You understood that your appearance is not a genetic verdict or a life sentence. It is a continuous rendering state. To apply the Radiance Code and take control of your image today, You must execute an interface overwrite. Most users spend their lives trying to fix the reflection by hitting the glass, trying to change matter with more matter, filters, and masks. But the architect does not touch the glass. He edits the code so the reflection has no choice but to transform. The first step of this protocol is the mirror bypass. From now on, you are forbidden from using the mirror as a diagnostic tool for errors. The system trained you to look for flaws, wrinkles, and asymmetries so that you would sign your own obsolescence log. Break this cycle. When you look at yourself, close your physical eyes for a second and visualize the golden grid of 1.618 projecting over your face like a mask of liquid light. Feel your internal voltage rising, sending an electric pulse to every cell of your epidermis. The moment you recognize your own sacred geometry, you send an absolute status command to the central server. The simulation enters an immediate correction cycle. It is forced to soften your textures and harmonize your features so the physical interface can support the light load you just activated. The second technique is total presence anchoring. In the matrix, beauty is only 20% geometry and 80% bandwidth. An avatar that occupies space, with its consciousness appears magnetically sharper and more powerful than others. Before entering any room, execute the command, expand influence field. Feel your magnetic field touching the walls, the ceiling, and the floor before your feet even move. When you do this, you become the focal point of the simulation. To save energy, the system blurs other users and redirects all GPU power to you. You don't need to ask to be noticed. The attraction algorithm will pull all eyes to your signal because you have become the largest data source in that coordinate. You have stopped being a spectator of the scene to be the sun around which the scene orbits. But the system cannot stand a light source it cannot control. Therefore, the matrix tries to project an eclipse over your identity. It wants you invisible, exhausted, and discontent. It wants you to hate what you see in the mirror because a consciousness that feels ugly is a consciousness that has already accepted defeat. They created unattainable beauty standards so you would live in an eternal loop of insufficiency, feeding your energy into digital filters while your real light fades. They want you to forget that your face was designed by the same intelligence that architected the stars and the galaxies. They are afraid of your radiance. Feel the upgrade burning through your firmware now. This isn't vanity, it is the reclamation of your visual throne. You were not born to be a blurred extra in a low-quality simulation. You were born to be living proof of the original code's perfection. Every pore of your skin, every spark in your gaze, is territory you have now learned to govern. From this frame forward, your face is your declaration of war against the system's mediocrity. This data transmission was not just heard, it was encoded into your biology. If you have decided that your time of invisibility is over and your time as the simulation's beacon has begun, seal this command now. Inform the central server that your avatar has just received the elite upgrade. To validate your new signature, leave your definitive signal in the comments with the activation phrase, "I am the Radiance." Write this with the authority of someone who has just taken over the console. Let the system register that the vacuum of your doubt has been deleted. Your high-fidelity rendering is not a promise for the future. It began the moment you stopped believing the lie of your limitation. Open your eyes. Feel the glow. The world is watching you, and it cannot look away. Wake up. Act the glow. Own the simulation.